Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Seattle Angel workshop series. I'm John Seacrest. We run the Seattle Angel Conference. In between our conferences, we try to do a bunch of workshops that help startups make progress and help investors be aware and more effective in their investing at the early pre-seed stage. We just completed Transatlantic Angel Conference 8 last week. So the next set of cycles will start in March. So between now and March, we'll do a whole bunch of workshops along the way. And we're seeing that AI is one of those things that are coming up often in our conversations. And we have a really wide level of use and awareness among our startups as they come into our program. And so I thought this cycle I would spend more time talking about how uh, businesses in general ought to be using AI, and then perhaps in specific how startups should be starting with AI as a part of their process as opposed to adding it in at the end. So Lee and I have been talking a little bit, and he has a multi-agent model that I think is really quite interesting. It addresses this fundamental itch that I've sort of gotten after Sam Altman said there's going to be $1 billion company with a solo founder. That has my brain going. I don't think we can do that today. But I do think we can do the $100 million business with 10 people today if we do the AI processes right. And if startups don't start thinking about it at the beginning, I think they're setting themselves up for a very hard road in the future. So, Lee, would you like to talk a little bit about your stuff and then dive right in? I'm going to spotlight you so you'll be a little bit brighter. Feel free to
Sure.
share when you want.
Thank you, John. Hi, everyone. My name's Lee, and I specialize in AI automation, but also provide general AI consulting like training. Um, and today is a bit of an introduction to AI automation, a bit about the capabilities and limitations as well, which are really important to keep in mind. So, um, yeah, hopefully we will understand the value of AI automation, know what AI can and can't do, become familiar with platforms and tools for AI automation, and understand the basics of AI automation systems. So when we look at a platform like one called NA10, we understand the general layout and the drag and drop system. Just a little bit about me. I'm a researcher, psychologist turned AI consultant. I work mostly with US clients, but I'm actually based in France. I'm from Australia, and what I do is build custom AI solutions for a range of industries, but also do some occasional training, coaching on AI as well. So there's a bit of a paradox because there are ways that we can actually become less busy, but we were actually too busy to build them ourselves. And so with advancements in AI and AI related tools, it has become a lot easier to build these ourselves. But it's really just a matter of know-how and trying to be able to get there. And part of the problem with managing all the tasks that we have to do, you can see in this chart that a huge chunk of it goes into admin and coordination. And we'd much prefer that chunk to go into something like strategic work or product development or customer conversations, whatever it may be, because when we're doing work that we don't want to do, we pay a price in areas where we would like to do it, and maybe we're rushing conversations we didn't want to rush, and not paying as much detail in areas we would want to. So admin is a really good place to start with AI automation. And this helps because admin is one of the biggest problems that we have with paying a price for context switching. When we switch from one task to another, we pay a price with our cognitive attention load. And so the more we can minimize that, streamline the task that we are doing, the better off we are. So AI can excel at research compilation, document summarization, drafting, notes, data entry, scheduling, first pass analysis. But what it can't do, or what it shouldn't do, what we should do is judgment, relationship building, pattern recognition, the due diligence process, founder conversations, customer conversations, gut instinct, learning that comes from doing. And the more that we hone into those sort of skills and expertise that we have and feed that into AI, the better off those AI systems become. So if we think about if it's actually worth it to automate some of these admin processes, then with rough estimates like pre-meeting research, we spend 30 minutes per day, replying to emails, 60 minutes per day, content writing, 30 minutes per day, data entry, 20 minutes per day. Over a month, that's about 45 hours. So that's about a whole work week, maybe a little bit more, a little bit less, depending what we're doing. And with AI automation, it's not necessarily completely automatic because the time that we do save needs to go into really important processes like verifying true facts, editing content. So you can see that the time after automation for pre-meeting research is 5 minutes. It's not 0. So we want to check, is that figure right? That seems too good to be true. Let me make sure it's not hallucinating. I'll double check that. That time is really important and deserved considering the time that we do save. When we're replying to emails, we don't want to automatically send emails. We want drafts so we can check them, make sure there's no errors, make sure that's what we want to say. And it's still a lot faster. So it's worth spending that little bit of time just to make sure it's the best quality that we are outputting. Something like data entry is a bit different. It's not going to another human. That's a slightly different area than the content writing, communication, research. And in terms of monthly cost, around $75, maybe less. That is due to things like subscriptions and a little bit of API use, which is the running cost of AI, essentially. But reclaiming that 45 hours of time per month is priceless. That's a whole week back. Now, the other thing to be cognizant of is, there's a lot of focus on AI error. And we say, well, AI can make mistakes here and there, and so we just throw it out. But we don't really talk about human error in that conversation. And humans are prone to error. So when we think about, should we hire more people to do these admin tasks, we have to keep in mind that AI errors can be mitigated very well, but there's also a lot of costs associated with human errors. And there are different types of errors associated with each of them. And so that's a whole area to go into, but there's significant cost with mishiring people, replacing, onboarding, and so on. And so that's one significant advantage that AI automation has. So in terms of AI automation platforms, now this is a good overview of them. So on the axes here, we have broad automation to AI automation, and on the y-axis, we have easy to implement and deep integrations. Now, you might be able to tell this graph actually came from Mind Studio, which happens to have it at the very top right of easy to implement and AI automation. Now, it is a very good platform. I do recommend it, and not many people know about it. So it is a good place to learn how to do these AI automations. Today, I'll walk you through one using N8N, which is considered to be the best overall platform. But you probably heard about Zapier and Make. They're also fine as well. So, they all basically do the same thing. They all do drag and drop automation.
So I've lost sound on you. Can you check your sound?
So sorry, I have a cold, so I'm trying not to cough into the microphone. So I'll
Ah,
try not
all
to
right.
do that.
Thank you.
Thank you for telling me. So when we talk about AI, we often talk about things like ChatGPT, Gemini, and that's often what we do use. And that's still part of the equation because as you're learning to build these automations, you have another window open of Gemini or ChatGPT, and you're talking about what you're doing and you're getting feedback, and that's one of the best ways to learn how to build these automations. So you have these automation platforms and you have chat interfaces, and then you have more advanced low-code tools, things like Claude Code, Replit, Cursor, which we won't go into today, but they are very, very powerful. Um, so in terms of designing a workflow, there's basically this type of layout here. The trigger, which is what sets off the automation. The actions, what are the actual manipulations happening? Like read the file, summarize the text, create a task in Asana, identifying where the data is, spreadsheets, Excel sheets, CRMs, and what is the output? We want to send a message in Teams. We want to send a message on Slack, send an email. There are all sorts of possibilities with these triggers, actions, data, and output. So it's really what works best for you. And laying it out in one of these automation platforms. So when we talk about making a 5-person AI team, we're talking about at least 5 AI automations. Now, I'd say at least 5 because there's a really important issue I'll talk about later called context rot, where you don't want to give AI too much information at a time because then the accuracy decreases. So you try to give one task per automation, per agent. So that's a really important concept to remember. So if it's a 5-person team, we could have a research analyst that monitors competitors, an executive assistant that manages emails, a content repurposer that repurposes content for social media, a data entry clerk, updates databases, and a communications coordinator, which manages outreach. Um, now, I'll skip through these slides because it might take some time to go through the live build. But basically, um, it's going over each of these and what they can handle and what they should handle. It's just basically like before, we shouldn't be handling judgment, decisions, in any of those type of areas. And so what we're going to build today is this one, the executive assistant. And this one will categorize emails and automatically draft replies. Okay. And so this will be in NA10. Um, like I said, you could probably do it in other platforms, but NA10 is a really um, versatile platform. It can do almost anything. Okay, so I'll just share that screen. All right. Okay, so this is what NA10 looks like. And just to manage expectations, this is a live build, and it might be your first time seeing a platform like this. It will look overwhelming because this is considered the more technical platform. It will look more overwhelming at first, but it is a matter of small, simple steps. And if you have something like Gemini or ChatGPT, go along as you do this on another screen. It is possible to do it yourself. And you'll be able to follow along in the recording. And so in NA10, we go create workflow, and we're making the executive assistant, and you just click to add the first step. And we're going to build this in Gmail. And so what this will be is that trigger. What triggers the automation? And Gmail, and on message received, meaning that when an email arrives in Gmail, that's what will trigger the automation. So I click on that. I connect my Gmail account, and every minute it will look for a new email. And I will send a test email now that I prepared. Okay. And I click fetch test event, which is like test. So it's looking for an email, and then it finds one. So on the right-hand side is what's called the output. The left-hand side will be the input. And you'll see as we're building this, it flows from left to right, and the input cascades from left to right. So all the information that happened on the left can be picked up on the subsequent blocks. And so there's lots of information here, and there's going to be lots of information we don't need. We only need so much information. We only need things like the subject and the body of the email. And so what we'll do first is close that. And because we have that email here, we're going to do something called pin the data, which just means so we don't have to keep clicking, look for an email, look for an email. We'll just pin it there so we don't have to keep doing that. And so what we'll do now is we click on the plus symbol, and that will bring up what we're going to do next. And what we're going to do next is classify the email. And we'll do that using an AI node, in this case, AI agent. So we click on AI agent, and it brings up that interface again. Remember, input on the left, output on the right. The input on the left is what we had when we found that email before. All that information that we don't need, as soon as we got that email, is now on the left. And so what we want to do is classify this email into if it's an investor email, if it's a customer support email, or if it's just an admin email. And so we can label them with colors and then assign them to different agents to respond. And so what we do here is for the source for the prompt, the user message, this agent will have the subject. And this is the time for the drag and drop. So what I'm looking on the left here for is the subject of the email. And I'm looking for this one here. And so I click on it and I drag it across and it lands there. And the reason I do that is because the next time I get an email, it will say something different. So it will say what this subject is here. So if you see below in green, it says complete with DocuSign, referral agreement. So that's the current email. And when we get another email, because we have this, we drag the email section. It will be a different subject. Okay, let me just change something very quickly. There we go. All right, and then we go body, and we're looking for the body of the email here, which is text. So we click it, drag it, and that's the body. Now I know there's so much information here. How are we meant to know where to click and drag? Where's the text? Where's the subject? That's what comes from learning by doing. So the more we do these, the more we go, okay, for Gmail, that's where the subject is, that's where the heading is, where the text is. So that's one of those things that by practice you get to figure out where is that information that we're looking for. Text, drag it across. Okay. So that's the text we're going to classify, and then we add a system message. And if you've made a custom GPT before, this is kind of what we're doing. We're making that system prompt, that overall instruction to give to the agent. So up here was that text to classify, and here we're saying that you are here to classify text. So we can say something like, you are an email classifier for a founder. Read the email subject and body and output only one of the following exact category names. And we also do things like do not add punctuation or explanation, because sometimes when we ask AI something simple to do, it will say lots of other things as well. So the categories are: one, investor relations; two, user support; and three, admin ops. Um, just for a bit more context, fundraising, login issues, and invoices.
Lost you again.
Sorry, thank you. We hit execute step, doesn't work because it's an AI agent. It needs an AI model, which is the engine. So we click on the plus symbol for chat model, and you can pick any model you want. It's model agnostic. You can have Anthropic, Gemini, OpenAI, Grok. For this, we'll pick OpenAI. And so you need an OpenAI account, not a subscription, but just an account. And the API use is pay per use. It's very, very, it's just a few cents per time. Not
So,
even a
so
few cents.
someone asked earlier what the cost was of polling Gmail every minute with N8N.
Polling is free. The only operational cost is API usage. And so for things like scraping, AI use, that's where it costs money. But you can do automations where there is no running cost. I mean, with just N8N, you have to pay that subscription to N8N. But you can do non-AI automations like some data entry, and that won't include any running cost apart from the subscription. Um, so, and if one of the things you do to minimize cost is choose a cheap model. For example, we're just classifying text. We don't need a really good model. So we could even use 3.5 GPT 3.5 Turbo. But models are pretty cheap. And I think something like GPT-5 Nano or Mini is good. And that's it. We just pick the model, and above each node is a little button where you can click play, and that tests it. And so I had sent an email about user support, and it's detected that. We can see the email here in the box. The email says urgent, cannot access dashboard. It says, hey team, I'm trying to export my end of month reports, but every time I click the download button, I get an error. So it's a user support issue. And the AI, based on this prompt, has identified it as number 2, user support login issue. And you can see when we run it on the right-hand side, that's the output. Left-hand side was the input, the email. Right-hand side is just the output. And so because we have multiple categories, and this part um, might seem a little bit um, confusing. We're doing something called switching. So this is another one of those um, things that come from learning from doing, is you have to know how to manage that information flow. And so we're going to have just three. We had three categories, so we're going to add three rules here. So we're going to have investor relations, user support, and admin ops. And so in the AI agent, remember that one is just to classify the text as one, two, or three. Investor relations, admin ops, or user support. And so we just drag the output from the AI agent into value here. And it becomes this green equation here called JSON output. And that's kind of a placeholder, and it always depends on what that output is. So in this case, it's user support, but maybe in another email, it will be investor relations, or another email will be admin ops. And so we use that there when we have dynamic information that can change.
We can't hear you.
Sorry. Now we want the text classifier. And so we're going to label the email. So we go back to Gmail. We're going to add label to message. And just quickly see all the other Gmail nodes you can have. Add labels, delete messages, mark a message as read, reply to a message, delete a label, create a draft. It can manage your inbox very comprehensively.
A lot of these things we can do in just Gmail actions. What is the thing that I gain by doing it in N8N instead of just like building the label mechanisms in Gmail directly?
Because the next step will be drafting the replies. And so, yeah, the labeling thing, other things can do it. And so, yeah, it's not necessary to do the labeling, but it's just one of the features.
And presumably the complexity of the workflow can be much more complicated by um, adding in things with N8N that you simply cannot do in Gmail.
Yes, exactly. Because you might not want to draft a email reply. You might want to forward that email to your technical co-founder or forward that email to someone else, which you can do. So you can make it detect certain words, keywords, and if those words are detected, send to someone else, or send me a WhatsApp message so I can see it faster than my email, if it's really important.
And presumably Gemini has not inched its way into doing that directly in Gmail yet.
That's right, not yet. So that's the other thing is those chat interfaces like Gemini, ChatGPT, they do have connectors to email applications. Uh, and so they're not there yet. They can be useful to an extent. But with something like this, you have full control over how much information you give. Um, the issue of context earlier really applies a lot to those chat interfaces like ChatGPT, Gemini. So you have a lot more control in an environment like this. All right. Okay. So um, hmm. So in the next part, we are labeling it. So we have what's called message ID and label ID. So message ID is just the first ID under Gmail trigger, and label ID. Now these have been pre-created, so um, I've made these in my Gmail beforehand. So these would be user support. And so they'll add a label, and then the next step, we want to write for the actual reply. And so we can use another AI agent. And just like the other one, we have a one prompt and then a system prompt. And in this prompt, just like the other one, we have the subject. And just trying to fix this up. 1 second. There we go. Um, so we had the label here, and then we have the AI agent, and we have the subject being read and the body being read. And in the system message, you can write these yourself. So this is the one that's going to reply to that email. One good tip is you explain ChatGPT or Gemini what you're doing, that you're making an email AI agent, and you want a system prompt to write replies. And so if you say that, you can get something like this, where it says you're a chief of staff or a busy founder. Your goal is to draft a reply to an investor or partner. Be professional, concise, confident. Keep it under 50 words. Don't say, I hope this email finds you well. Acknowledge receipt of email. If they ask for something, propose placeholders or options so I can fill in the blanks, and sign off simply with best regards, Lee. And so that's for the investor one. We want the customer support one, which looks like this. And so again, you say to AI, I'm doing the email AI agent. I want a customer support system prompt, and then it will give you something like this. Similar type of message, just a bit more tailored to the role. So the other one is more about being concise, being professional. This is customer support, so it's more about, make sure to thank them, make sure to be empathetic, make sure to be helpful, make sure to be human, apologize if they're reporting a bug. So the system prompt is different depending on the task, depending on the email. And that's why we categorize the emails. And then we want to create a draft. Um, and we've already connected Gmail. Let me just show where this is. So you go plus, and then you go Gmail, and then you want to go down and create a draft. And it'll look like this. And this is where there's a few things to play around with. For the subject, we want to say RE colon, and then put the subject in. And so that subject comes from all the way down here, follow up. And the message, that's what we got the AI agent to write. And so that should be in the output. There's the output. And so we drag that output, that's the reply, into the message part. And so there's a couple options that we add down here, which is send replies to, which is the person who sent us the email. And so we go down to the first Gmail trigger. And we find the block corresponding to the email address. So this text box. We click, we drag it across here. And then the last part is the thread ID. And that just means when we don't just create a reply, a draft reply separately, we make sure it's within the thread of the email conversation, not a separate thread. And so that's the thread ID. And that's just at the top below ID, thread ID. Again, a lot to remember at first glance, but when you play around with it, you pick up these things. And you ask AI, you show screenshots of what you're doing to AI, and it helps find what you're looking for. And then we can publish, and let's see if we can share that window. So we should be getting a draft reply soon. Sometimes these things happen, and we'll just send another test email. So let's go with this one, and I'll send it. Um, Let me see if there's anything in the chat. Sorry, I've been taking questions during this.
So Megan was just chatting about how she hopes that given that somebody has written a customer service chat connection like you just did before, that there would be a customer service chat bot that you just point at and you're done and you don't have to do it again.
Yeah, so on N8N there are templates available. People on YouTube put their what are called workflows there, so you can insert them in. Um, they're a bit tricky because a lot of it is there, but you still need to configure a lot of your personal settings. So you might be able to get away with it for a few of them, but there's still within each node some configuration um, that's needed.
I was just surprised that you had to identify, thanking them for the problem, right? Identifying the problem, things like that. That just seems so automatic to me, right, for a customer service email. And I was just wondering if there was there's so many bots that you can connect through this platform, which is great. There's got to be one for customer service, one for marketing, right? I would think maybe that's just in the future, and I'm hopeful, but
Yeah. No, I'm sure there are like people make a lot of um, specific layouts like this for very different verticals, and um, the source is in the system prompt, and so you might not you might not necessarily need to say make sure to thank them, make sure to be helpful. I probably didn't need to say that. AI is generally very nice for the most part, and so the what separates average chatbots to better chatbots is the context you provide and how you provide it. So if you're providing your information about your business in one document, and then you provide another document that includes frequently asked questions, and another document that includes maybe some documentation on the product, the technical specifications, then it will be more informed and it can give really good information faster. So that level of context can be a differentiator.
that's helpful. Thank you.
You're welcome. Let's see if this is working. Or is it going to be the live demo curse? No, it does work. Okay. So here's the email. We haven't opened it yet, but we can see there's a draft. It's been flagged as user support. And it says, hey team, I'm trying to export my end of month reports, but every time I click download CSV, I get this error. It's critical. I need to present to my board tomorrow. Can you please reset my session to fix this ASAP? User ID, thanks, Mike. And then it says, thanks for reaching out, Mike. See you're having trouble. downloading your end of month CSV, you get the 500 server error when clicking download CSV. I'm really sorry this is happening, especially with your board presentation coming up. I've looped in our engineering team to look at this immediately. To help them and to get you a fast workaround, could you please send a screenshot of the error? Confirm the exact report name, date range, and any filters you used. Tell me which browser and version and whether you tried incognito or a different browser. Let me know the exact time, including time zone, when you attempted the export. If you'd like, I can reset your session. Please confirm if you want me to proceed. I can send you a CSV alternatively. I'll update you in half an hour for the next steps. Sorry for disruption. We'll prioritize this. Best regards, Lee. So it was pretty helpful. It was actually thinking about things I didn't think about as well, like incognito, and that's without the context I was just talking about. We've not provided any good context. That's just the default system prompt doing its
And
work.
it also seems to have committed you to an action in 30 minutes. I
Yes.
found that interesting.
Yes. Yes. But it could also do things like, if this, when it says urgent, say that we'll loop in the engineering team and CC them in on the email. It could do that. We could just do some manipulation there and then it's done. We could automatically forward it to the engineering team. The possibilities are almost endless.
Well, but how do you manage that set of things in the case of hallucination where it's adding obligations for you to do a thing? Like maybe it can't actually send the CSV, or maybe it, can't actually guarantee you're going to respond in 30 minutes. How do you manage that part of the hallucination?
Yes, that's a really good question. So, this is where we would need to get the right balance of information. So this is the minimum amount of information I could have provided. And so in my system prompt, when I'm saying you're a helpful customer service person, then I can say, don't force obligations upon me. Don't make commitments like 30 minutes, or say only under these conditions. Say this is the emergency plan for urgent emails. This is how far we'll go in this situation. So you really explain the full, you give it all the SOPs that are relevant, and so that it is aligned as close as possible as would a real person. All the onboarding that you would give a real person, you need to get in text format so you can give it to an AI agent to do the same job. And so that applies to many other domains and roles where we have a lot of information in our head that we give to people verbally during onboarding. That once we have it in a document, then it is scalable. So it's conscious of time. That's that you don't have to go through all these steps again once you have that first one done, because you can group these, Control C, and then copy it. Then you have another one, and you just have to change the category and then the system prompt. So this one might be dealing with specific IT issues. Then you copy it, paste another one. This one's dealing with one type of invoice, and so on. So, that's just emails. And then, you might have urgent emails, and then you add something, say, when we have urgent in the email, we send a Slack notification to this person. When we say this word, we create another Slack channel. there's so many possibilities, and so it's really about customizing it to exactly what is best fit for your purposes. And so that's basically how one of the live builds works. I had a feeling it would take longer than I think, so there were just a couple more slides if I can go through quickly. Oops. So I didn't cover platform subscriptions. You know, they're all about $20 a month. There's some annoying setup with API access with Gmail and AI models. But again, when you have AI on one screen and you're setting up things on another screen, take screenshots, send it across, and you can figure it out. An important tip I mentioned before is context rot. The more information you give AI, the less accurate it is. And that includes the size of the prompt. And so that's why it's important not to give one agent many tasks. The less scope it has, the more efficient it will be. Just like people. If you give someone too many things to do, they can only be so efficient at each of those at a time. AI has the same limits. So we need to be aware of that. And you can just break things up in n8n or whatever platform to make it work like that. So it becomes less of an issue. And that's how you mitigate that AI-prone error. Not entirely eliminate, so you still need to verify, still need to check, but you can mitigate it. And that's when you hear about, and you probably experience yourself like I have, when you get into arguments with AI and it starts talking nonsense, generally that's when the conversation has gone on for a very long time. And the chat has gone for a long time. There's so much information there, but it makes more mistakes because of that context rot issue. And so just some do's and don'ts. Do plan, test, and iterate. Do use knowledge strategically, so context, documents, and do make sure there's alignment of data privacy and security between you, your stakeholders, and each app being used, like n8n, Gmail, as well as the AI model provider like OpenAI or Anthropic. Don't auto send, always create drafts, especially when you're learning. Don't skip verification. Time and time we see cases where that happens and it never works out well. And don't prioritize AI model superiority over privacy and security, like models like DeepSeek, where the terms of service are not the same as Anthropic, Google, OpenAI, and so on. And so AI is a force multiplier, not a replacement. Handling that admin work, we can really free up time once we have the systems in place. So it will take time to build it, but once it's there, it does save time. Start specific with even one task, break it down, and you can make AI really efficient solving one problem. And yeah, the learning happens by doing. So I would recommend just trying to build something simple, following along the email example or something like that. Once you build one, then you want to build more. So I'd recommend it. But otherwise, feel free to reach out if you're interested in learning more or have some ideas yourself, always happy to have a chat.
Cool. Thanks. Can you post that information to the chat so we have it in the text thing there too?
Sure.
What about the idea of bulk loading or exporting this N8N construction and then asking AI to build the whole thing and stuff it in? Does that work?
Uh, yeah, that's a really good question. So you do see videos of that working. Uh, I've tried it a lot. It does not work well at all. It looks like it works. It works because it builds that file type, and then you can import it in N8N, and it lays it all out. But then you have all the settings are wrong, and then you basically need to start from scratch. So I think that will happen one day, where you can essentially do text to automation. But it's definitely not there yet.
Okay. You want to stop sharing your screen and then
Yep.
we'll have a chat among everybody. Let me drop your spotlight. Does anybody have any questions that they want to bring up? Please raise your hand. That'll help me manage it a little bit better. Yes, Jared.
Hey, so I actually just posted this in the chat, but we are trying to use the wrapper side of N8N, be a wrapper of it, so that we can have an agent builder within our platform. Have you used that before? Have you done it, or have you only ever used it on N8N itself? Have you seen people doing that? What has that process been like?
Um, yeah, that's an interesting question. So no, I haven't done anything like that. Um, you know, the I'm I think that's a good idea because um there is room for more of these platforms like N8N, MindStudio, um, and that if you can build something that can do the same thing, but you do it in its own unique way. I think the VAPI angle is a good angle. Um, things like voice becoming more and more important, and we're recognizing that dictation is just and and talking with AI is a much more efficient way. So that's another way to get time back. But yeah, I haven't had direct experience myself with building a automation platform.
Got you. Thank you.
Any other thoughts or questions? So
Yeah,
when we
wait,
look,
I have
oh,
I have one more
all right,
question. How do you
go
normally
ahead.
price out building one of these agents?
Um, yeah, that's always depends on the quite a few factors. So earlier on it was cheaper, but depends on the industry, how many people are using it, the quite a few factors. But generally it's um four four or five figures.
And so is there a business in building the bots that Megan wanted?
Oh yes, yes.
Okay.
Yes, absolutely. So
And that's a four-figure task, or is there a way to take and turn that into a, spread it over thousands so that it's tens of dollars for 1,000 people instead of four figures for one person?
so in terms of making it a product that can be used by lots of people, I'm not 100% sure what the limits are of that. I mainly work with lower volume people per automation. Um, I'm not sure it has the architecture to support thousands of people on one workflow. You could have people download it and put it in their own N8N instance.
Right,
That's one way to do it, but otherwise
right.
you would need some sort of coded architecture to support that.
Right. Yeah, so Smith's asked, how long does it take to automate the emails that you did as for an expert? 30 minutes, 2 hours? What's the, oh my God, my email sucks. Please fix it. I know there's an email agent out there that's a service I pay my 20 bucks a month to that says that they do it, but I currently don't trust it. So
Yeah.
Smiths wants to know what it would take to get somebody to do it custom for them.
So if you had someone to do a custom for it, then that wouldn't take that long because it's a matter of getting it in your NA10 instance and then just setting it up. So how you like, what system prompts do you want, getting your account in there. That could take a couple hours. If you were wanting to do it yourself from scratch, I would leave a good day just to get familiar with the platform, have a video tutorial, have AI windows open, ready to send screenshots to of what you're doing, and you could build it yourself.
Yeah, I think most people in overwhelm in their current business can't find a day to do the things that are important to do, let alone the improve my processes thing.
Hmm.
So it's definitely an opportunity to hold their hand and turn it into small bites for people. Any
Yeah.
other questions for Lee or anything? We're going to talk a little bit more about ethical AI in January, on January 6th. I haven't posted that yet, but I will try to get to it today. Lee, is there anything you'd like to wrap this up with?
No, just like I said before, excuse me. Sorry. That issue of context rot is really overlooked, even by some AI experts, in this sort of area. So just be mindful of how much information you give AI, because that really does impair accuracy. And yeah, just learn by doing. But of course, reach out if you need any advice or discussions.
Do
And
you run
yeah.
do you run any like jams where like people could spend 2 hours a week with you and sort of get hand holding?
No, I don't at the moment. But that's something I could consider at some point.
That might be a good idea. Um, I do not know how to say your name there properly, so go ahead and speak, Nando Kenyayosi.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks, Leah, for the presentation. I read somewhere where they were saying that if you run an N88 on your local machine, it's free.
Yep.
And then when you're running on the cloud, that's when the costs apply. I'm not sure what you think about running locally and the hassle with running things locally. Thanks.
Yeah, that's a good question. So yeah, you can run it locally for free. NADN is actually open source. So when you're paying for the cloud version, it's just you're paying for hosting. So you can run it locally on your machine for free, but the automations won't run if your computer is off.
Okay.
Or you can use something like Hostinger for a virtual private server and have it hosted there. That's like $5 a month. And then you still self-hosting it, not locally, but on Hostinger. And so that's the same NNN, but cheaper.
I believe that there were some limitations to locally hosting it. Is that correct? Like, there's a loss of certain things.
Um, yeah, because you're reliant on your own security. And so with the cloud, it is actually very secure. It's SOC 2 Type 2. And if you run it locally, it depends on that, and you don't get the updates as easily integrated. But there are benefits because you can have uh, there's like community nodes that people make, um, and it is cheaper. So yeah, if you can do that, that's a good thing to do as well. But also, if it's more than N8N, I just use that today. Mind Studio is really underestimated. So if I was looking to just dip their feet in the water, then Mind Studio is a really good one. And what's really useful about Mind Studio is there's a Chrome button extension, so you can design a button to be on your screen, and you can say extract all the people's names on this page. But you don't have you just click the button and it will extract all the names. So Mind Studio has those sort of benefits compared to something like N8N. So yeah,
Maybe you need to do a workshop on how to use Mind Studio to craft a more efficient user experience as you go through your day.
absolutely. Yeah, I'd love to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've got a soft spot for Mind Studio because that's how I started. But yeah, N8N is really good, but you can do basically anything with all of those platforms. So if one is really fit for you, then just go with just one of them. You don't need to learn multiple.
Cool. Any other thoughts? All right, so I would like to say from the investor point of view at Seattle Angel Conference, that it makes a lot of sense for the early teams with a few people who are doing their customer development experiments to build the automations to make those experiments easier to do. And so this kind of workflow would be a perfect way for you to build a customer discovery experiment engine, which would then, give you a factor of 10 speed on your customer sub-segment understanding, which I think is the number one thing that is undercooked in most of the companies that are coming through Seattle Angel Conference. So
It's
go
I was
ahead,
gonna
Dave.
say, like something like Vappy, for me, who's a non-technical founder, was really easy to get to the point of demoing and to showing people what's possible, and then getting to the point of sale where then we can hire out the person to do that. So even if you're non-technical, these little tools are easy to whip up and produce as, like he said, an entryway pricing option or package. And then you introduce them to the suite of services and the deeper AI intelligence systems you might have to offer, but they're super easy to just drop
Yeah.
in.
So uh, once again, I'll get on my soapbox and say customer discovery experiments are different than your product, and that there's reasons why you should keep those in two different boxes in your head. But nonetheless, thank you so very much, Lee. I think that was very useful. We will put this on our YouTube channel. Please go to the YouTube channel and subscribe. Look over the next 3 months on the different meetup groups, and you should see us putting more workshops out around this early pre-seed stage activity and likely several more AI conversations as well. Thanks so much for coming.
Thank you.
Thanks. Bye.